Avalanche fans are livid at this as the team is officially eliminated from the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs, and it happened in heartbreaking fashion. And now that the team is out of the playoffs and will not play hockey again until next October, the question is raised as to what's next for this organization, as a lot of people are extremely frustrated with everything going on in the world of the Colorado Avalanche, in which they were heartbreakingly ripped out of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs in the first round. We're going to break down everything in the world of Colorado Avalanche hockey relating to this heartbreaking and shocking elimination that happened recently in Game 7 versus the Dallas Stars. But before we do so, I want to remind you to make sure you're subscribed to Avalanche Digest. We give you the most accurate, consistent, daily information and news regarding the Colorado Avalanche. So please exit out of this video, make sure that you are subscribed. And thank you for tuning in and supporting Avalanche Digest, brand new channel covering the Colorado Avalanche via Digest Media. And we really appreciate your support on the way to 100 subscribers. So please give us that subscribe, give us that support. 13 away from 100 subscribers at the 87 mark right now. Continuing to try to grow the fastest up-and-coming news source for Colorado Avalanche news and updates. So we thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning into Avs Digest, and let's break down why Avalanche fans are furious and livid right now after a heartbreaking Game 7 loss against the Dallas Stars. The loss to the Stars last night was arguably, people are saying, arguably one of the worst losses in Colorado sports history, Denver sports history, that is. So that encompasses the Colorado Rockies, the Denver Broncos, the Denver Nuggets, as well as the Avs. Take a look at a tweet here. It was equivalent to the Broncos with the Jaguars all the way back in 1996, or the Ravens in 2012, when the one offensive play against the Ravens changed the entire course of the game, and the Ravens would go on to win in heartbreaking fashion. The Nuggets last year lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 7 at home after being up by 20. It was a massive missed opportunity and a loss that was going to be talked about for years. And that's exactly what's going on here with the Colorado Avalanche. And we're going to talk about why in a second. But first, let's just look at the what. And let's really unpack and unpeel this game and why it is going to sting for so long, and why it has Avs fans, including myself, feeling absolutely gutted after this Game 7. So we take a look at this Game 7. Let's just go into kind of the before, the series itself. We're heading into a series against Dallas where, on our side of things, our general manager, Chris MacFarland, made a ton of moves this season. We reworked our entire goalie tandem. We traded up for Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, and we added two veteran National Hockey League goalies to our tandem who were hoping to be extremely dominant throughout the course of the regular season and the playoffs. We traded away our franchise draft pick, 10th overall, and Stanley Cup champion forward, Mikko Rantanen. He eventually lands himself in Dallas, which we will get into in a second. But we also trade up for players like Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, and we gain other players like Marty Necas and Jack Drury in those other trades. We then even grab Eric Johnson, who was a franchise Avs player early on in the career for the Colorado Avalanche, and has now returned for almost like a locker room type of vibe that is getting players, fans, and everybody excited. And then, of course, the cherry on top, what the entire hockey world could not wait for. They were on the edge of their seat after 1,041 games missed. The captain of the Avs, Gabe Landeskog, makes his return mid-series against the Dallas Stars. So we have all that going for us. The talk of the town in the NHL was how much depth this team had heading into the playoffs, and how this matchup against the Stars was essentially the Western Conference Final, and one of these teams was going to be the sure representative in the Stanley Cup Championship this season for the Western Conference. Now let's turn the page over to the Dallas Stars side. Heading into the series, Dallas had lost 7 straight games. They were missing their star-studded franchise defenseman 3rd overall pick in the 2017 draft in Miro Heiskanen, and in Game 82 of the season. Game 82. There's 82 games in an NHL season, meaning that was the last regular season game. Jason Robertson goes down with a lower body injury, and he leaves the game to then not return for an single game during the first round series against the Colorado Avalanche for the Dallas Stars. And then, of course, we teased it this a second ago. The other kicker, Mikko Rantanen, during the trade deadline, on the day of the trade deadline, after being dealt to the Carolina Hurricanes, is then traded to the Dallas Stars and signs an 8-year deal with Dallas. So there's two sides of this puzzle, and as we're heading into it, everybody said Colorado is the favorite. Colorado is the team that should win this series because Dallas is missing two strong depth players who greatly contribute to the strength of that team. They were 0-7 in their final games of the season heading into the series, and Colorado had all the heat and all the momentum. But what it came down to at the end of the day was the special teams for the Colorado Avalanche. And the Colorado Avalanche were 13% on power plays in that series. That is an atrocious number to be reading in this tweet from Drew Livingston right here. 13% success rate on the power play. And let's keep in mind that a few of those were double minors in which we had 4 minutes of power play opportunity at a single time, and we were not able to contribute. Let's go back to Game 3, the first game at home in the series for the Avs. Also, mind you, the game where Gabe Landeskog made his long-awaited and electric return to the ice against the Stars in the first home game of the series. The series is knotted up 1-1 at this time. Not only were the Avs 0-6 on the power play that day, but in the last seconds of the tied game, which would then go to overtime, someone draws blood on Brock Nelson, which calls for a double minor. We have a minute of a man advantage to end the third period. We have 3 minutes of man advantage hockey to start off overtime, and we are still unable to convert on the power play and make it work, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Then let's go all the way up to Game 7. We're tied up at 3. We're trying to get this game for us. We deserve this win. We deserve to move on to the next round, which is absolutely so true and so frustrating at the same time that we weren't able to. Of course, in the first few minutes of the game, in the first frames of the game, that is, drawn blood again. Avs get a double minor, and they're unable to convert, which is just so frustrating. It's so hard to fathom. And the power play and the special teams is ultimately what is the reason that we ended up losing this series. And it has Avs fans absolutely furious in the place that we are at right now and just kind of how things unfolded. And, you know, another thing that is just such a dagger with how this game ended, in which now the Colorado Avalanche are the first team in not just NHL, but MLB, NBA, and NHL history to lose 7 consecutive Game 7s. Very painful that we have now lost 7 straight series-clinching games, but it was the way that it happened. Obviously, the first few frames of this Game 7 were rough. We couldn't get things done on the power play. But then Josh Manson nets us a shorthanded goal. We're up 1-0 heading into the third period. We come back into the third period. Nathan MacKinnon says, let's extend this lead. Let's keep this absolutely rolling. We're up 2-0 with 11 minutes to go in the third period. I'm sitting here watching this game, and I'm thinking to myself, we're up 2-0 with 10 minutes to go. We've locked this in, basically. We're pretty much dialed. I was so stoked that we had finally figured out a way to get the edge over Dallas. But no. Instead, we're going to let Mikko Rantanen, the former Colorado Avalanche franchise player, walk all over us. Now, obviously, part of this did have to do with penalties. There were some unfortunate calls toward the end of the game, which granted Dallas power plays that would evidently ultimately give them the lead. But Mikko Rantanen scores back-to-back goals to shorten the lead and then tie the game. And then on the power play, Wyatt Johnston has the go-ahead goal. It's now 3-2 with less than 5 minutes to go in this game. And just like that, the Avs are absolutely scrambling to try and figure out how they're going to be able to win this game, even though they've had the lead for the entirety of the game. And then, of course, with the goalie pulled, we're doing everything that we can to try to score a goal and tie this game up at 3 apiece. Who else but Mikko Rantanen to take the puck all the way down the ice and close it out with a hat trick to put the nail in the freaking coffin for the Avs. So the way that this series went and the way that this season ended has Avs fans and Avs players, quite frankly, including Nathan MacKinnon and Gabe Landeskog and everyone else on the roster, absolutely livid. Everybody is so frustrated and cannot believe what has happened in this series. I know that I'm going to be feeling the pain of this for weeks. It is just heartbreaking how this went, and things need to be changed clearly, and things need to be fixed. And on that note, Joe Sakic and Chris MacFarland, the head coach, the management, will be meeting with the Avs media tomorrow at 1 p.m. This was posted earlier today. And so the question now is, what will these two be talking about? And further question is, what happens next? Because clearly, with all the moves that were made by Chris MacFarland and all of the occurrences that happened towards the end of the season leading up to where we are now, in which we just lost to Dallas in a heartbreaking manner, what happens next? And there's a question being raised, obviously, as to if the management will be moved around, if people will potentially be out of a job, or if coaches will potentially be out of a job. But nonetheless, there is a lot of questions and a lot of confusion that needs to be answered now that the Avs are out of the playoffs and have essentially shocked the world as far as being eliminated in the first round by Dallas. So we look forward to hearing from the media, hearing from the front office and the managers tomorrow and what they have to say about the heartbreaking end to the season. But for now, the question continues to be raised as what happens next now that the Avs are out of the playoffs and will not play hockey again until next year. And another thing that is worth noting is the depth and the prime that we have within our roster right now, the franchise players and the skill that we have. It doesn't last forever. And we can't win every year with the same roster. Things are going to get changed. Things are going to move around. So every year things are going to look different, and now we have to ask ourselves and we have to wonder, are we going to have any sort of a chance to do this at any point in the coming years in the future? We'll have to see. We'll see what the managers have to talk about tomorrow. As I said, Avs fans are gutted right now, myself included. But for now, we're just going to have to see what comes next, and if all these questions for the Avs are going to be answered by management sooner rather than later here.